Not even a decade ago, citrus production here in Georgia was almost non existent. But thanks to a recent boom, there are now more than 500,000 trees planted on nearly 4,000 acres of land within the state. And while some growers were affected by the recent storms, it is still shaping up to be some huge yields.
We're estimating we lost about 5% of our trees statewide, but in the grand scheme of things, that's not as bad as some of the other commodities. But when we look at individual groves, we saw anywhere from 0 to 40% fruit loss, just depending on where in the path of the hurricane they were, what variety it was, and how old those trees were. It's looking very promising. Even though we got hit by Hurricane Helene, it's still looking like this is going to be a record year for citrus.
That is very good news for the industry as it suffered through 2 straight years of little to no production due to the late freeze in 2022.
So this year especially was a very heavy crop load. So after the freeze in 2022, 2023 was a rebuilding year for a lot of the trees. So we didn't see a big crop last year. So the trees are kind of overcompensating this year. And if you go out and look at trees, most of the limbs are almost laying down. They have so much fruit on them, which is good for this year. But that means in the future, like next year might be a lower year just because they've invested all of their resources into this year.
With that in mind, it's imperative growers are well prepared for the coming harvest and what to do with the crop once it is off the trees.
In the coming months, just keep a very close eye on your crop. With all this cold weather we've been having, you can't expect the fruit to start coloring up. And just make sure you've got a good plan in place for where you're going to send the fruit. I've heard some interest in exporting the fruit to Florida, and make sure you've got the right certification so you can actually get them over the state lines.
That's because citrus production in the Sunshine State has fallen more than 90% over the past quarter century due to hurricanes and citrus greening. And while it is a relatively new industry here in the state, Georgia is well positioned to help fill the void.
Well, right now, research is just really getting started. So one of the things we want to focus on is freeze protection methods, because that is one of the things that most threatens the industry here. We don't have the disease pressure that places like Florida do. Right now, the Georgia citrus industry is still pretty small, so you have pockets of citrus, so they're pretty isolated, and that keeps them safe from most of that disease.
That being said, there is still plenty of research to be done in order to maximize yields year in and year out.
A lot of the questions are just cultural management practices, fertilizer questions, when they should be fertilizing, how much. Similarly with canopy management, should they be pruning, when should they be pruning? Also with irrigation, how much water should they be putting out and stuff like that. So there's a lot of questions that still need to be answered. So it's an exciting new area of research for the state.
Reporting from Tifton, I'm Damon Jones for the Farm Monitor.